If you're a fan of Cheap Trick, the Little River Band, or Foreigner, I think you're going to love this video. What I have here, I found a concert review from 1977 where these three bands played together. And this person that wrote this review of the concert, it almost sounds like she's never heard any of these bands before and may have never been to a rock concert before. Just kind of in the innocent way she writes about this whole thing, her experience, and documents it. It's very charming, but anyway, I think you'll have some fun with this. And so anyway, so I'm going to start off here. The title of this article was Foreigner Was Terrific. And this is from the Sentinel, Wednesday, September 14th, 1977, page 9. Fans stomp, whistle, cheer, combo. By Kate Miller. Greensboro. The last one was the best one. It went good, better, best. That's how one girl described a three-band concert last Saturday night in the Greensboro Auditorium. Foreigner was the main attraction and the last of the three bands to perform. The other two bands were Cheap Trick and the Little River Band. Cheap Trick was the first band to play, and they began by singing Hello There, Ladies and Gentlemen, which of course is on In Color. And you've heard that song. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great rockin' tune. Then the band's lead guitarist, who wore a suit with a bow tie and a baseball hat and shoes, introduced their next song from our first album, In Color, which of course that's actually their second album. And she's talking obviously about Rick Nielsen. And it's interesting how she describes him there with the bow tie, the suit, because that is the Rick Nielsen that we all know and love. You know, a lot of times those early days, and you'd see that him wearing that bow tie. And anyway, always kind of the crazy looking stuff and the crazy guitars. And let's see. And it starts with Tom Peterson on bass guitar. Cheap Trick saying, I want you. After that, now, by the way, I want to stop right there. I'm sure she's actually referring to I Want You to Want Me, which was, of course, on the In Color album. Because Cheap Trick did put out a song many years later on the One-on-One album that's called actually I Want You. And she's, of course, can't be referring to that because that happened several years later. So she's certainly referring to I Want You to Want Me, which is classic Cheap Trick. I want you to want me. Oh my gosh, what a great tune. As a matter of fact, the live recordings of that song were the ones that really put that song on the map. Hey, hold on for just a second. We'll get right back to the video. But if you like this stuff, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave any comments. We'd love to hear from you, and we really appreciate it. Anyway, with that, back to the video. Because when you listen to the studio, although I kind of liked the studio, it was very dry. And it didn't have the energy that it had when they put it on. I think it was on the Budokan recording. After that, the lead guitarist asked the audience, are you ready to rock? As the audience answered yes, the band broke into Southern Soul and danced around the stage. The lead guitarist came down front and threw his guitar picks into the audience and shook hands with a teenager sitting in the front row. During the course of their next four songs, Cheap Trick's lead guitarist danced on the amplifiers, played two guitars at one time, threw guitar picks to the auditorium stagehands, and spit one guitar pick from the stage into the first row of the audience. Then Cheap Trick began to sing Good Night Now, Ladies and Gentlemen, and left to a standing ovation. But Cheap Trick returned to the stage and played one more song, which featured, and it says, this is funny, which featured Sonny Carlos on the drums. Of course, it's Bun E. Carlos. So anyway. After that, the lead guitarist threw a towel, which he had used to wipe sweat from his face, into the audience. Little Elvis Presley thing there. He then gave the audience a thumbs up sign, and Cheap Trick left the stage. During a 15-minute intermission, one girl commented that Cheap Trick was, quote, pretty good for a group I hadn't heard of before. Then she put screams applause. At the end of the intermission, the capacity crowd welcomed the Little River Band. And now keep in mind, again, this is 1977. This is before the song Reminiscing. This is before the song Lonesome Loser. This is early stuff. Let's see, Little River Band with screams and applause. The band came out and sang 2 songs which concentrated more on harmony and lyrics than heavy instrumentals. When the songs were over, the band's lead vocalist said, "Thank you very much. We're from Australia, and we talk a little funny, but don't let that bother you." He then introduced George McCarver, the band's lead guitarist, who proceeded to play a song featuring guitar. The Little River Band then sang "Happy Anniversary, Baby," "I'll Always Call Your Name," and "Help Is On Its Way, Hang On." The lead vocalist told the crowd, "You sound like a Greensboro audience." All right. Next, the band played its most recognized song, It's a Long Way There. And that's, if you've ever heard this stuff, that one is a little bit reminiscent of kind of a Crosby, Stills and Nash sound, because she talks about the harmonies and they really have that sound in there. If you listen to them, they remind me a little bit. I always have to be a little bit careful because then people start going crazy when you make these comparisons. But the Little River Band, as they moved into their career, was reminiscent of a Steely Dan, Christopher Cross kind of thing. And it was just great. It was just great music. But the guitarist, the guitars like rocked a little bit too. I mean, you go back to some of that, like Reelin' in the Years, and there's some great rock and guitar playing in that. I'm just picking a random one from the Steely Dan catalog, but the Little River Band had some of that in their stuff. Anyway, but their music had some of that. It had that flavor, in my opinion, the Steely Dan, Christopher Cross kind of sound. Let's see. The audience gave a standing ovation. The band then played "Statue of Liberty" and one other song. Halfway through the last song, the lead vocalist said, "Goodbye, North Carolina. We hope to be back soon." During intermission, a musician from Durham commented that, quote, "The Little River Band had a very tight act. I was impressed because I'd only heard a few of their songs on the radio. They weren't just loud music. You could hear the lyrics. They were good. I enjoyed it." Unquote. About 10:45, the lights in the auditorium went down and Foreigner came on stage to a standing ovation and the flicking of cigarette lighters. It's kind of a lost thing, isn't it? So many people today, at least concerts I've been to, you see fewer of the cigarette lighters and more of the cell phones lights being held up. But there was something really kind of cool about the cigarette lighters way back when you'd see 10,000 of those things everywhere. Foreigner began with an instrumental number, and while they played, machines produced a foam which covered the stage and gave the illusion of spilling out into the audience, which was pushing forward for a closer look. The band's lead vocalist, Lou Gramm, then said, "It's good to be here in Greensboro," and threw a drumstick into the audience. Foreigner then played "I Need You" and "Woman, Oh Woman." And remember, this is on Foreigner's first album. This is before Double Vision. This is before Head Games. This is before Four. So they had a couple of hits off that first album, but this is early days. So when they played that concert, it was like play the whole album. Now, so he goes on. "Now we'll do one more I hope you'll like. It's called Baby, You're As Cold as Ice." Of course, You're Cold as Ice was on that first album. The audience responded with screams, whistles, cheers, and applause. Foreigner also played "The Damage Is Done." Then one of the musicians said, "The next one's a kind of spicy little song about up there, Star Rider." The audience cheered as the song began with a flute solo. As I recall, that was a little bit of a more mellow, mystical kind of song, as I recall. And the foam once again filled the stage to the performers' knees, giving the stage an eerie effect. At the end of Star Rider, Graham said, "All right, we're ready to do some rockin' now. Are you with us?" To which the audience screamed back, "Yes." And Graham replied, "Stand up and put your hands together. We want to hear you up here." The audience immediately stood up and began to clap. Auditorium officials then told members of the audience to sit down. But Foreigner kept signaling for the audience to stand. After Feels Like the First Time, which of course is another one of the hit songs off that first album, Graham said, "Hey, you were really good to us. Thank you." The band then waved to members of the audience and left the stage. The audience immediately began clapping, flicking lighters, and screaming for more. After about 3 minutes, Foreigner returned and sang, "I'm a fool for you anyway." Then the audience crowded to the front as Foreigner began its last number, Long, Long Way From Home, which is a cool song. After their last number, Graham said, "Thank you, Greensboro. Thank you. We love you." Then the 6 members of Foreigner put their hands on each other's shoulders and bowed together. They threw another drumstick and waved again to the audience before leaving the stage for the last time, leaving the audience screaming for more. It was great. Foreigner was terrific. I loved it. That's what the fans said. I love that. Again, just kind of the charming way she described all the, "Are you ready to rock?" that stuff, quoting all these things that they were saying from the stage. It's so great. I love this article. I love finding these old things. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. And of course, like the video, share this with people that may have gone, lived through that same stuff that we all lived through. Follow the channel, and also leave your comments. If you saw any of these bands, especially back in those early days, you go back and Cheap Trick was just awesome. They had so much great stuff back then. And also Foreigner, Little River Band too. I mean, they were all killer bands. And if you saw any of those bands in those early days, we'd love to hear about that stuff. So please put that stuff in the comments. Anyway, with that, have yourself a fantastic day.